Last year, I wrote and produced my debut album, Letters to God, Man and Myself. I spent years writing and workshopping songs. I developed my own poetic theory. I presented that theory at a conference in Crested Butte. I found a beautiful cabin to record in, became friends with an amazing drummer who I invited to record with me, invited some more friends to help, put out the album, marketed the album, played shows with the album, launched my own production company, and started work on the next one. Throughout this process, I got to interact with a lot of musicians, both people doing the same thing as me and people who were trying to do the same thing, which led to me receiving a lot of different questions. Questions about how I afforded it and how I created these opportunities. But I also received a lot of backhanded comments from people seemingly assuming that these were things that just kind of happened to me, like I got really lucky and they sort of just occurred. I received these comments with interesting excuses like, I can't record my music because I don't have nice enough equipment, or how do you find a pro studio to record in? I need a better microphone, or nobody will work with me. I just can't flesh out my songs. Let's take a breath. Of course, there was plenty of luck within this whole process, but a lot of this was also about being able to make the opportunities that I needed in order to make music. In today's technological age, there are so many different ways that you can produce, create, and write music, or really produce, create, and write anything, and they do not all revolve around money. Trust me, I am not made of money, and while I invested a lot of my own funds into this project, it was nothing compared to what most bands today will throw at the production costs of a record. These comments and questions inspired me to embark on a new project here on YouTube with all of you. I want to prove that creativity, commitment, practice, and a love for the musical art form is all that you really need to create a cohesive piece of art. I want to remove this myth that it's your budget and your gear that is keeping you from recording that demo, that EP, that project, or that full album. Which is why over the next few months, I am going to create a full EP with under $1,000 worth of music equipment. First, to get this out of the way, I did invest far more than $1,000 worth of equipment into my last project. I used a number of pieces of gear that I had collected over a few years, and I had the privilege of borrowing some beautiful high-end instruments from friends of mine. For this project, however, I want to assure you that though I may have better or quote-unquote more high-end or professional gear at my disposal, I will not be using it. Additionally, there is one piece of equipment that I will not be including in the cost tally of this project, and that is my laptop. I am going to assume that you, my viewer, already has a computer, whether for work purposes or for personal reasons, because it is pretty much a staple in today's day and age, and honestly, there's really no way that I could get this whole project to be under that $1,000 price point if I included a computer in the cost. Now, the first thing that I needed to do with this project was to decide what equipment I was going to use within that $1,000 price range. Now, first and foremost, I needed an instrument, and I decided on an acoustic guitar. This is a Teton Guitars Dreadnought style acoustic that I bought used for $400. I looked it up and I did find that it retails for $600 new, but finding deals is an important part of this project. I chose this instrument because it can serve melodic, rhythmic, and percussive purposes throughout the recording process. Next, I needed a DAW, or a digital audio workstation, if you're unfamiliar. This is the software suite within which I will record this EP. For this project, I chose to use Logic Pro. I've already done my fair share of recording with Logic, and I find it quite intuitive to use. Its stock plugins cover just about everything that I'll need, and it's very affordable at a cost of just $200 with no subscription, which I think it's really hard to find softwares that are not subscription-based today, and just having that means you can continue making music even when you inevitably run out of money. Next, I needed a recording interface. This is what converts our analog signals into the digital format that we will use within a computer's DAW. These also typically have a preamp in them, which essentially just makes everything a little bit louder. I chose to use the PreSonus AudioBox 1, which I've had for a few years and retails now for around $50 on Reverb. Now, I chose to use 2 microphones for this project, which might be a little bit of a splurge considering the price range, but I wanted to have different options depending on what kind of sounds I was trying to capture. The first microphone I chose is what might be the most dependable microphone of all time, the Shure SM57. This is an affordable mic that you will find used in pro studios everywhere, and you can buy it for just $100. Additionally, I will be using the Shure PGA 181 to meet any of my condenser microphone needs. I'll primarily use this for capturing vocals and room sounds, and it currently retails at $80. Because there are a number of MIDI instruments already within Logic, I chose to also utilize a MIDI controller, or a MIDI keyboard rather. While this is not at all necessary to use these instruments, I just find it's more intuitive and more natural for me to have that keyboard in front of me while writing, rather than drawing things directly into my DAW. However, I didn't want to go crazy over my budget with this. While there's such a wide range of MIDI keyboards, I literally went with the cheapest one that I can find. So for this project, I am using the Alesis V Mini, which retails for $30 on Reverb.com. Because I am keeping within a budget on this project, I will not be using my studio monitors for mixing. I have a great set of speakers that I would usually use, but I didn't want to pretend that I wasn't going to count those for the cost. So I am just going to be using my straight up laptop speakers, my phone speaker, plug it into your car, send it to a friend, see what it sounds like. But for the majority of this project, I will be using a good set of headphones, and the set of headphones that I have chosen for this are the Shure SRH 440s, which retail at $100. After all of this, I was left with an additional glorious $40 left over. And this I chose to use on a sale that I found online for the Ozone Elements Suite. This will pretty much just help me in the mastering stage of this project. All of this together tallies up to $1,000. It doesn't matter how good your production is if you have bad songs. That's just the truth. But it does go the other direction as well. Really great songs can make up for mediocre production. Think back to those classical compositions where you've never even heard what they would have sounded like the first time that they were performed because, frankly, there was no recording equipment for those things. However, the songs, the melodies are so beautiful that they've withstood the test of time. In fact, most of the blues, folk, and rock legends we still listen to today did not have access to high-definition recording equipment. However, the soul of their music keeps us coming back. I often think back to the album Parachutes by Coldplay, which has a number of amazing songs on it that we seem to have remembered well for the last 15 years, but has very underwhelming production. However, people keep going back to those songs because the songs are strong, rather than just the production being the thing that glistens. If you're wanting to make music, it's important that you pour over those songs. Let those melodies, let those lyrics become more than just scramblings on a page, but become something that stirs something inside of you, that makes you feel something, that feels really true and authentic. And when you reach that feeling, that's when I think that you know that you have something. For this project, I chose to start completely from scratch. While I do have a number of songs that I've already developed or have started writing or are kind of ready to begin the recording process, I thought it was important that every single piece of this project be done start to finish. So every song that you're going to hear in this EP, in this project, will be written for this project. Right now, it is February of 2024, but when I started this project, it was November of 2023. One of my favorite ways to find inspiration for songs is just to go for a walk in nature, whether it's seeing people, hearing things, or just having this time to think in silence. I find that it really inspires me to write and kind of shows me places that I can draw inspiration for in my music. So, in starting this project, all the way back in November of 23, that is exactly what I did. So this is probably going to sound terrible because I'm in my car, but we just drove down to a little trail. There's a little spot by the river that I think is sometimes a good spot for me to write and gives me some good inspiration. So we're out here. We've got the notebook, we got a pen, we got a coffee. We're just gonna go hang out, look for some inspiration, see what comes, and write some stuff down, and hopefully we get some good lyrics out of it. I returned from this outing with some fleshed out ideas and also some thoughts that I thought with a little bit more development could be turned into something a bit more lyrical. These also gave me some starting points for the types of moods that I thought I might want to capture on this project. Over the next couple of months, I spent time working with these lyrics and ideas, as well as keeping a regular journal on my phone's notes and in my paper journal, simply jotting down any and everything that fit some of these topics. Sometimes I'd sit down with a guitar and just play around while looking at the words, looking for a melody. Occasionally, I'd reshuffle the words, put random stanzas together, or find things that just had the right feeling. This was a process that I was fairly familiar with from my schooling in writing and from my work as a poet and author as well. Some days you get lightning bolts from heaven that just immediately give you the ideas, and other days you're poring over the same lyrics for days or weeks or even months trying to look for that cohesiveness in the song. As I started to create some lyrics that I enjoyed from these rough beginnings, I put my own little poetic theory back into play, one which I like to call the melody of words. This process treats words with the same ideas as music theory. I look for harmonic rhymes, use repetition and lack thereof to create and alleviate tension. I analyze connotation and even double meanings. Unfortunately, I don't have the time in this video today to go fully into the depths of this theory. However, I will be posting a full video on my Patreon page specifically walking through how to use this tool. So if you are interested in learning more, I'd encourage you to become a Ragged Oak patron. Now, after this first round of workshopping, I ended up with 2 songs that I thought were ready to enter into the production process. One of these songs I've titled 11th River, which is kind of a meditation on nature during the season of early winter. And the other one is titled Pillow Belly, which is a song about some body image issues that I've struggled with. Because I don't want to make this first video too long, I am going to end it here. And I know we haven't even scratched the surface of the production process, but I really do think that those early developments of lyric and inspiration and what you're going to do for a project are just as, if not more important than what happens after you hit record. One of the best pieces of advice that I received as a songwriter, and I unfortunately can't really remember who actually told me this, is that if you can't sit down and just play the song all the way through with an acoustic guitar, front to back, and it still carries meaning and authenticity, then you need to go back and redevelop the song. You can go crazy with instrumentation and ideas later in the process, but the song as a whole needs to have that bit of strength up front. Thus, for my own process, if it doesn't survive the solo acoustic test, then the song just isn't strong enough. This is why I've only talked about 2 songs in this first episode. They were the only 2 that I thought survived that early solo acoustic test. As I continued to work on and write the other songs for this EP, I began the production process of those first 2 songs that I wrote over the first few weeks that I started on this project. In the next episode, I will show you the techniques and tools that I used for beginning this production process and really dive into the importance of radical creativity and how these constraints that we have can actually force us to be more creative throughout the production process. If you're interested in deep dives of the techniques and tools used throughout this series, become a Ragged Oak patron. I will be posting tabs, explanation videos, and samples on the Ragged Oak Patreon page throughout the course of this series. You can also listen to the debut album, Letters to God, Man, and Myself, wherever you listen to music. Stay tuned for episode 2 of Making an Album for Under $1,000.
It's okay to come